I'm Leigh. I'm an artist working in Japanese Rizome painting, which is the application of wax and dyes on silk. The dyes are intriguing to me because when you overlay one dye over another, it changes color, and so it's a very dynamic process. The wax has unusual qualities, and it helps me achieve unusual textures for the type of imagery that I'm trying to get. The process that I use is called Rizome. When I started college, I had learned how to do batik, and I was intrigued from the very first moment. And I went on for a master's degree after that. But it was just 20 years ago, I had a chance meeting with a Rizome master. And learning how the Japanese design the kimonos just gave me a whole new way to work, and it changed my process forever. What is different about it is that instead of vat dyeing or immersion dyeing, which is used in batik, when your piece has been waxed and is ready for the dyes are applied with little badger brushes, and the colors are worked in so that there can be blending and shading. And that gives a whole different appearance to the painting. It has depth, it has fluidity, it flows. The colors overlay each other and change as they move across the painting. And batik would be very hard edge, and all the waxes, all the edges would be hard edge. So the Japanese would use various tools to apply their wax that are different from the norm. They use these little brushes that are not sumi brushes because they are wired inside. A sumi brush would fall apart in a waxing or two because they're glued. They use a brush with most of the bristles cut out of it, so that when the wax is brushed on the fabric, you will get a very feathery look to the image. So it just captured my imagination, and it's the way I like to work. My imagery stems largely from my environment. I love nature. I love the Everglades. Since moving here, it's such a different environment than where I grew up in Montana, and the flora and the fauna are so exotic here and so intriguing that it's wonderful imagery for paintings. I think my work lends itself to metaphor. I hope it has an air of mystery about it, and it's forever interesting to me to work this way, to try and achieve an appreciation for this environment. I've enjoyed working so much with the dyes that I've expanded into doing wearable art, and I've lately been offering classes to small groups of students as well.
We became familiar with Leigh's work when we visited her home and saw her studio. We have a bit of a background in Asian art because we lived in Asia for 8 years, specifically in Japan for almost 3. So we know Japanese artwork. We don't know this kind of Japanese artwork. And Janet, I will say, fell in love with one of her artworks. Tell her.
I did. As I said, we're very familiar with Asian art, but the Japanese paint on a far thicker piece of silk. I've never seen anyone use the fine, thin silk that she uses, which flows so beautifully. It's very elegant. And I really believe that was the most stunningly beautiful interpretation of a bird in flight that I've ever seen. So I was passionate about it and just really wanted to have it in our home. And it works beautifully with our oriental features in our dining room, which is where the piece is hanging. So.
And unlike the woodblock prints that I have in my office, which are a different form of Japanese art, Leigh's work just, it evokes emotion. It's not this sort of, what you see is what you get with woodblock print art. Hers, you can use your imagination to think about what that's all about. And that's totally different than anything I was ever exposed to in Japan.
What I'm wearing at the moment is a piece that she produced of clothing to capture all of the elements of her Everglades series. And I just think it's one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen.